See, we have various type of networks. A network for data center, network for enterprises, network for service provider. All these networks are nowadays trying to get into a new realm called software-defined solution. Software-defined, meaning we are trying to have a controller to control our data center or service provider network or the enterprise's network. We are trying to have controllers. That's what the software defined means, controllers. Instead of we controlling, we want a software to control them. ACI is one example in data center. ACI has got a controller called Epic. Likewise, Sd-Access is a controller. It's a software-defined solution in enterprises. We have something called DNAC in enterprises. That's a controller. DNAC is a controller. Likewise, when we have WAN connections between sites, when we have WAN connections, we have many sites. How many? It may be 2, it may be 100. An organization has got multiple sites, many sites. And they got a WAN connection. How the WAN connection is established? Someone tell me. If an enterprise has got like 3 sites, 2 sites, when we say WAN connection, what all the WAN connections that you have seen? No. Please talk.
You said like MPLS.
Very nice example. MPLS, Layer 3 VPN, is one of the best example for WAN connection between sites. MPLS, Layer 3 VPN, Layer 2 VPN, lease line connections, GRE, DMVPN. These are all some of the ways in which we have WAN connections today. Now, that WAN we want to automate. We want to control that WAN using a controller. One big advantage is we will not be advertising our routes anymore to the service provider. In MPLS Layer 3 VPN, if you see, from the customer edge, the routes are advertised to the provider edge VRF table. And then From there it takes the VPN between the provider edges. But with Sd-Wan you no need to do that. That's one big advantage. No sites will advertise the route to the provider edge. So tunnel is going to be between the sites, not between PEs. It is going to be between sites. It's a very, very nice thing. Between sites. And these tunnels are IPsec. Wow, wonderful. IPsec tunnels. Then I don't need DMVPN anymore. Yes. You have a secure tunnel between sites. For this, you are not going to configure anything on the command line going to every edge. You are not going to go to any edge device and configure anything on the command line. What a big advantage. I have 100 sites and I'm going to have a IPsec VPN tunnel between all my remote sites, for which I'm not going to do any configuration on the command line to achieve this. I don't need to even go to those 100 sites because I got a controller. When I have that one controller sitting in one place, I can decide what routing that router should do. What are the routes that routing table should have? What are all the routes that it should advertise? And an IPsec VPN to establish between the sites. Everything you do just sitting in one place with one controller. Let me draw. Let's see. We have internet. We got many sites. Site 1. We have many sites like this. Now, you may have the controllers in one of your site, let's say site 6, or it may be in the cloud here. But when you say cloud, it is also another site. You need to understand that. That's a site inside this. It's not your own. You have rented a place. You have rented a centralized place. That's up to you. But nothing wrong to have it in one of your sites. Let's say site 1 is the head office, or site 3 is the head office. So I have the controllers here. Using the controller, I can manage all the sites just from one place. So the controllers are mostly VMs. They're not physical device. These edge devices on the sites are mostly physical device. We also have a virtual device. Example, CSR 1000. CSR 1000 is a VM. Which can be an edge device. See, this is the big picture of Sd-Wan. You got a controller, a graphical user interface, which can push all the configuration that is necessary for the edges. Some may be common configuration for all edges. Some may be very specific, unique for one particular edge, you see. Some configuration may be very unique for this router 5 edge, site 5. We have some specific policy. Likewise, some specific policy for each site. Apart from this, you may also have some configuration that is common for all of this. Maybe you want to run OSPF as the routing protocol. That's a common policy. Whether it is local to the site or common to all sites, everything is determined right here from the controller. Using the GUI, graphical user interface, we define the policies using some templates. And this controller pushes in the form of XML to all the site's edge device. Edge devices gets the config, downloads the config, applies it, and starts functioning as if they were configured locally, but nothing is locally configured. Netconf is one word we should remember always. Netconf is what I said just now using XML. So netconf is using XML to push the configurations to all the sites. Again, I'm repeating, some configurations are very specific to sites, each site, some are common to all sites. So the controller through which you configure knows every single edge specifically, so that you can put some specific configuration that is local to that site. And also the controller can talk to every edge device of the sites, so we put the common configuration also through the same controller. A very big advantage, you just got one window to configure, to monitor, manage, troubleshoot, upgrade, everything, you just do from one place, one controller. All that you need to do on the site is you need to plug in the power card to the edge device and also plug in the network card to the WAN port. Boom, that's all. You just plug in and play. As soon as you plug in the edge device to your LAN as well as to the WAN, immediately, in few seconds, the edge device will be downloading the necessary configuration, or the edge device will get the XML file that is necessary for that edge, using which the edge device will build a control plane. A routing table will be established. A control plane will come up. What is control plane? The one which controls the flow of data from this site to the remote sites. This control plane can provide you IPsec tunnels. If site 6 wants to talk to site 4, they will have an IPsec tunnel directly. 6 and 4 will have a direct IPsec tunnel. And for that you don't need to go to a controller, or you don't need to go via controller. Controller is a controller. It's not a data plane or a control plane. It is not in the path. So it's neither a data plane or a control plane. But remember, we have not done any configuration going directly to the sites. Site 6 and site 4, they form tunnel directly, but for that the necessary configurations got imported into this from the controller. Controller gave the wisdom to do this VPN, IPsec. With that wisdom, the site 6 and site 4 can now establish IPsec tunnel. Question, please. You have any question? I have just given you the overall view of Sd-Wan now. Ask me a question. Controllers discovers the edge device. Controllers can see the edge device when they come online. Now we put the policy for each edge device using this controller. Did I answer your question, Jeff?
Yeah.
Thank you. Question from Murli is, if you are going to deploy Sd-Wan, can we use the existing network, or do we need to buy few additional devices or completely new devices? Is his question. Answer to this question is, you see, this is Sd-Wan. WAN device, if you see in an organization, you will have one or maximum two for redundancy, the edge device. For every enterprises, for every hospital, you will have one or two edge device with HSRP or VRRP. That edge device need to be Sd-Wan supporter. So that device is what you need to buy now. You need to add additionally to your sites. You need to buy the edge device. And also in the head office or somewhere in the cloud, you need to have this controller. These controllers are VMs, virtual machines. So this controller is also not just one, it is of three separate components we are going to discuss. Answer to your question is, you are not going to throw out all your existing setup, keep it, just the edge device need to be added.
Edge device means what? On the top of WAN router, what?
It's just a WAN device, WAN router. You need to change your existing WAN router.
So, Aaron, let's say if this is new setup SD-WAN, controllers you have added on site 3, let's say example site 3, how each site will know, as you said, using or the network card, it will detect discover, right? Correct. So how they will know, because they are not physically connected, we need to do manually or how?
That's a long process. I'll tell you how in some time. Murali's question is, when I connect a new site, it's in very different part of the world, in a new location. When I connect a new site to Sd-Wan, how my Sd-Wan knows that I'm having a new site to put it in the inventory, how the existing Sd-Wan discovers this new site which is just plugged in some part of the world. Only if it is discovered, we can push the configuration using netconf. So how is this discovery happens? Are we going to go and configure anything on the edge device? For this is the question. Am I right, Murali? Yeah.
On both sides, yes. Yes, correct.
Right. Answer to this question is, I have already answered. What I said is, plug and play. You just bring your edge device, connect to the wall outlet, give the power, electric power. Connect to your existing LAN and connect to your WAN. You do that, this router will go and do all the work. That's why you need that special edge device. You cannot use any device as an edge device here. For Sd-Wan, you need to buy that edge device which can do this. But there is also a way. If you don't want to have this dynamic discovery, you can also manually configure the edge device to identify the controllers. It is done in two ways. One, dynamic, the other one, manual. Right, so when you buy the edge device, the controllers, they are not manufactured in one cluster and sold it to you. No. They are not going to decide, okay, for this controller, this is the edge device. No, not like that. You can buy separately, but when you try using the edge device, there is a method, there is a procedure the edge device will undergo, for which your edge device need to be supplied with a valid DNS address, IP address. That's what I mean plug and play. Listen, as soon as you plug the edge device, when it gets the power, when it is connected to the WAN port, when you connect the internet, your edge device needs to get an IP address from the DHCP, service provider's DHCP. When service provider provides IP address, he also provides what? DNS. If that is there, enough. Rest of the things the edge device will take care. If I have connection to DNS, I can resolve the location of my controllers. Actually, it's a long story. I have cut shorted for this introduction class. This is what we can speak. So, the simple answer to Murli's question is, you don't configure anything on the new added edge device. All that you need to provide is a valid public IP address with a DNS address. As soon as you do that, because it can talk to the DNS server, the edge device will ask the DNS server the location of those controllers, and it takes care of all the initial discoveries, and all of a sudden when you are sitting in the controller, you can see one device appearing. Appeared. Now you will see a new device appearing there in the head office as soon as the person connects in the branch office. Now you can use the templates, put the necessary policies for that site. That gets imported to the site now. Yeah, Murli.
These controllers will be physical, right?
Well, see, we have seen VM. I have written there. Controllers are virtual machines only. Pradeep? All right.
So these are called edge devices only, or do they have any type?
Sorry, voice very low. Can you repeat again, please?
So these are called edge devices only, or do they have any naming?
See, on the sites, they're called as edge device. That's the best way to call. If you are seeing Sd-Wan as a neutral vendor. But every vendor has got their own names. I have not gone to Cisco's Sd-Wan so far. That is what I'm planning to do in the next class. I want to give you the introduction to Sd-Wan. I have given that now. But every vendor has got some specific name. For example, in Cisco, the edge devices are called as C-Edge, Cisco's Edge. V-Edge, Webtela Edge. Cisco bought this company initially from Webtela. So they are called as V-Edge. But later, Cisco also came up with a lot of edge device like ASR, ISR, CSR. So those devices are called as C-Edge. Cisco Edge, Webtela Edge, and then we also have another name called WAN Edge. WAN Edge is the best terminology that we can use. It's very common. You don't need to say Webtela Edge, Cisco Edge. Simply say WAN Edge. Cisco also says WAN Edge nowadays. WAN Edge. Wide area network edges. WAN Edge device. So there won't be confusion whether it is V-Edge or C-Edge. When you say WAN Edge, it's neutral. Pradeep, did I answer your question?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Welcome. Anyone else have got any question?
I have one question.
Mm-hmm.
So this Sd-Wan setup can work with code distribution access layer or
See, I told you this is edge device. This is only Sd-Wan. This is not within an enterprises. It is between enterprises. It is WAN. Usually, okay, no. For Liam, this is going to be useful because it's kind of summarization now. Usually, we have MPLS Layer 3 VPN where all the customers' routes are advertised to provider. Now, if you don't have Sd-Wan, this is what we do, right? We don't have Sd-Wan. We advertise all our routes to the provider edge. The provider edge, using the MPLS VPN tunnel, they distribute the routes to the appropriate, the correct provider edge remote, so that it can go to the provider edge, customer edge remote and form a control plane there. So from site 1 we advertise the route to provider. Provider takes the route to the remote provider edge, and from the remote provider edge it goes to the customer edge of the remote site, and now the remote site routing table has got some routes of ours so that they can reach us. With Sd-Wan, you don't need to provide any route to the provider edge. You yourself can provide it to all the edges using a controller, for which there is a need for tunnel to be established between the edges. The tunnel is what provided by this Sd-Wan. So you have your tunnel straight to your remote office. It is multi-point tunnel if you have multiple sites like DMVPN, multi-sites. they can talk directly. All the sites can talk directly, which means you got to overlay a tunnel between the sites, and they distribute the routes among themselves, and they get the control plane up. So the main thing that we see here is we no need to configure DMVPN to provide IPsec. IPsec is complementary with Sd-Wan. But if you don't want IPsec, you can also have GRE. That is your option. You can go with IPsec or GRE. Another thing that we have seen is our routes are with us. We are not giving to provider. Advantage is, as the customer of the WAN, you feel secured. The providers also not overburdened now. The providers need to have the same existing MPLS or a simple IP. You are not disturbing there. They can have anything. They can have MPLS. They can have anything. The providers still they can have MPLS, but we are not going to take L3 VPN service. We no need that. We just take one WAN connection. It may be IP broadband or it may be MPLS circuit. That doesn't matter for us. If you subscribe for a fast communication, they may give you an MPLS WAN connection. If you are subscribing for simple communication, then they may give you a broadband connection. Service providers, they are the same like before, but we are not providing any routes to the provider. We just take the service, WAN service. So, do we need MPLS? Yeah, of course you need MPLS. MPLS is fast label switching. We are not replacing MPLS. We still need MPLS in the service provider side. So, let me summarize. We have edge devices. When you plug the edge devices, the controllers sitting in one of your site, or the controllers may be in the cloud, they will know that you have come online. Those controllers are VMs, so you can move to anywhere. It's just a VM. It can be in a cloud, it can be in one of your site. When the controller knows the sites, those things are dynamic actually. We are going to go more deep into Sd-Wan Cisco from the next class. Today I have just given you the overall view of what is Sd-Wan. So when the controller knows the edge device, it allows us to put the configuration using the GUI, to put the policy, the route policy using the GUI, using the template in the GUI, and deploy. When you say deploy, it pushes the configuration using the netconf to all the sites. And all the sites routing table is now up. The routing table as per the policy is built in every site. So the packet forwarding, the next stop IP address is everything is going to be based on what you have put in the controller. So this site 5 edge device routing table will have routes as per the policy that you configured here in this controller. the next hop address, and the protocol to choose. Everything is determined here in this controller. So whatever the controller has said, only that the site can do. It cannot do anything extra. The path selection to various destinations, everything is decided by this controller. But this is just a controller, it is not a control plane. Control plane of this edge device is here. The routing table is the control plane here. That controls the path, whether to go to, let's say you have WAN connection 1, WAN connection 2. Whenever I want to talk to site 4, I want to use only WAN connection 2. That's the policy. So it will never go via WAN 1. It will not go via WAN 1 even though there is a connection. It won't go. Because my policy is your next hop should be WAN 2 whenever you speak to site 4. That is what I mean control plane. But you did not configure those things here manually. You configured through the controller and the controller has pushed it using netconf. So do we need an expert engineer on the remote sites? No. We need people who can plug in the cables, the power card, the WAN connection and the LAN connection. You have a LAN engineer who can do this plugging work. To configure that edge device, you don't need a specialist. For rest of your inside network, you need some skilled people. But to configure the edge device, you don't need a skilled people. You don't need a skilled person. Right, these are all the advantages of Sd-Wan. I've just given you the overall view of Sd-Wan. In our next class, I'm going to walk you through this Cisco's Sd-Wan. Right, we'll talk about that in detail in the next class.